Right, hello and welcome to another episode of the Bitstocks podcast. And today we have none other than Topboxer Sadiq. So those who have been following Bitstocks, Umar is the first and up until right now, the only individual that Bitstocks is sponsoring. Our first official sponsorship. And this podcast, I predict, and I'm going to assume, is going to paint the picture and people are going to realize instantly after watching this exactly why that is. So without me doing a big intro for you, mate, Umar, talk to me, mate. Introduce yourself.
What up, people? No, I think what you just said is probably going to be true. I'm Umar Sadiq, aka Top Boxer. I have been competitively boxing for 11 years. I've been in the sport for 15. As an amateur, I won numerous national titles, represented England, boxed for my birth country, Nigeria. I was in the 2016 Olympic team for them. And now I'm a professional, signed with Frank Warren. And
we're gonna get through your history. We're gonna get to your accolade, your history, how you built up to this point.
But actually, the next thing I was gonna say was how I met you. But yeah, cool. We'll get to that. I'm fine. I'm fantastic as always.
So what have you been up to today?
Today I've been doing my morning rituals, then training, then throwing up. Literally.
That's not scheduled, right? You say morning rituals, training, and throwing up.
Gotta keep the weight down. No, I'm joking. No, I had this avocado that I think I was supposed to have last week. And my body just rejected it instantly. And this is whilst I was still trying to make sure I get here on time.
Only a super strict professional athletic vegan could say I was throwing up this morning and I reckon it's because a dodgy avocado. Everyone would be like alcohol, some other crazy narcotics or drugs or something else in their system. Like, do you know what? I reckon it's that avocado, you know.
But yeah, so did that and then obviously came here. We had a chat outside and now we're here recording this before my next session.
So you've got a fight coming up.
Yeah.
Right. Which is going to be on
April 27th, Wembley Arena.
Okay. And any announcements as to who it is?
There's a guy called, for the minute, I'm told there's a guy called Chris Dutton. What we're doing was trying to get specific names that are on a list to go in line with the trajectory of the plan for the career. We haven't got any of them this time, but the promise is after this time, we're going to well and truly get on the ladder. So,
these are the things that I'm going to want to drill down in on because I'm a boxing fan. I'm not going to say that I'm an
You're not going to say that you always stay to the main event.
Mate, that's just me, man. Everyone knows if I'm going out, I'm going to be there for what I need to be there for and I'm out. All right. Yeah. However, I'm by no means a boxing expert at all, right? I'm an observer. I listen to what professionals say, and then I look at what professionals say, and I observe it, and I can see if I can identify those patterns in the ring, right? Okay. So that's kind of how I go about any real sport. Yeah, and boxing is definitely one of the things that I really enjoy watching. But being a business person and being someone who always likes to view things from multiple angles and really try to put myself in other people's shoes and try to see the parallels between a professional athlete's life and someone who runs a business or someone who's doing anything in between, right? Mm-hmm. There are certain things that you can pull away from and say, okay, we're all sharing certain experiences. One of the things that I find quite interesting in the boxing journey or any real sports journey is the parts that lead up to what people perceive the overnight success is, right? So the last fight that I came down to see, your last fight, the opponent changed apparently 5 times, right?
Yeah.
So dealing with that kind of stuff, like what happened with your last fight? And then we could stem from there onwards and we could talk about more the semantics behind what boxing is.
Long story short was there was an agreed opponent, and then coming into fight week, which is like Monday, you know, knowing you're going to be boxing on Saturday, it was, this person's no longer available, but you have this other option who is like 4 kilos heavier than you, and actually he doesn't want to do the 6 rounds, he just wants to do 4. It's like, no. My fight before was 8 rounds, so I'm not going back down to 4. Let's see who else we can get. Okay, we've got this other guy. He's foreign, so we're gonna have to fly him in, and he's gonna be game for the 6 rounds. About the same weight as you, roughly, but he might need you to come down a little bit more. Okay, not ideal, but cool. And then the next day, actually, no, the British Boxing Board have said he can't box you. So we've got to look for someone else, so you get the idea. So it's just that stuff like that. And eventually, we got an opponent who was 3 kilos heavier than me, and he came in, the day before the fight. And it was just, I had to deal with uncertainty throughout the whole week, not just on whether or not I was going to box at all, but also whether I needed to drop my weight or put my weight up. And obviously, I'm a human being, so I don't just willingly pick up 3 kilos or drop another 2. So it's managing the pressure of potentially not fighting after all this promotion, all this training, all the sacrifices, but also all the people that have taken time out to, or made plans to come and already paid for tickets and stuff. So it was a lot of pressure, but I like to think I dealt with it well. Unfortunately, I have a good team who sorted it out, and the result.
The way that you deal with things is definitely going to be one of the highlights of this discussion. Right? And definitely one of the things as to what I identified with you and the trait that I look for in certain people. We'll get onto that stuff. But leading up to, I guess, where you are right now, presently with boxing, let's go way back, way back, right? What was you doing before boxing, and how old were you? And what was going on in your mind at that moment in your life?
When you say before boxing, do you mean before professional boxing or before boxing full stop?
The subject of boxing for you, right? Because how other people classify something is irrelevant. It's about your relationship to your craft and what you want to do with yourself. So.
What I was doing before boxing, all right, so my journey into boxing is very unusual in that I didn't lace up a pair of gloves with the intent to becoming a boxer, or because I was looking at, if anything, I knew virtually nothing about boxing. I mean, I knew of Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, but that's because they're household names. So I was 16 at the time, play fighting with friends of mine. All we ever did was play fight or actually fight. And for one reason or another, one of them punched another, I ended up in a youth project where there was boxing. And I just did it because I wanted to be fit and I wanted to be better than everyone around me. And 4 years later, I decided to take it up as a hobby.
When you say you want to be better than everyone around you, in what sense? In the boxing sense of strength, endurance, speed, or
just everything? So like I went to different youth projects where this guy was coaching, Tony Sese, his name is, and he was also training at a boxing gym. And wherever the session was, I would go in. Basically, I followed him around, and whatever we did, I had to be the best. If we're doing sit-ups, I had to do them quicker and better than everyone. Press-ups, quicker and better than everyone. Punching, faster, harder than everyone with better technique. Running, I had to be first. And whatever it was, I just had to be, like, nobody could dare be better than me in anything. And through that mindset, before I knew it, I was competing with people who were actually fighting in spars where I'm actually getting the better of them. And you'd think that I was the fighter. And ultimately, the sensible thing to do was to take advantage of what I've worked for, as opposed to just do it and then throw it away. So I started fighting, fell in love with the game, and here I am today.
Okay, so that's when you were 16. That's when that journey started, right?
Yeah.
So then what was you doing at that time while being? Was you studying? Was you in college? Well, that's leading to the tail end of school.
So 16, I think. No, I first laced up a pair of gloves after leaving school, because 16 you leave school, year 11, and anyone who knows the English educational system, year 11, you sort of leave school like April, May, so it's like way before the summer holidays. And in those days, really, all I did was I don't know if I
This is an uncensored podcast. Right? You can say it. It's up to you if you want to say it, but you can say it.
So basically, I tried to keep active. My past as, as in the past as possible. But in short, what I did was spend a lot of time running around with a lot of kids who were up to no good, doing a lot of things that our parents wouldn't be proud of and probably weren't proud of, getting arrested, things of that nature. And I left school wanting to be an actor, actually. But my family wouldn't have it. So, coming from a Nigerian background, it was no, you've got to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Yeah. Otherwise, how are you going to get a mortgage, man? How are you going to look after your kids? What they really meant is how are you going to look after me when I'm old? Yeah. And then because of family pressure, I ended up, thrown in a towel and chasing up acting. So I was sort of lost, not knowing what I wanted to do. And I eventually enrolled into an engineering course in college. But I had no desire to do that. So I was still quite lost in life, really. I was still trying to find myself. And I guess that probably plays a big part of why I was running around getting up to no good.
So when did the accounting aspect of your life come into effect?
Accounting came after. So I did engineering, then I did motor mechanics, then I did carpentry. Then I thought, I want to go uni. I really want to go uni. It's something that I think was instilled in me from a young age. So I knew I wanted to go uni. The exact reason why, I don't really know. But I just knew I wanted to go uni. And I remember going to university, London Met, when they had the clearance period, because I didn't do A-levels. And I said to them, the person that was serving me, I said, I've come to sign up for a course. And so I fill out this form and, we'll take it from there. I was filling out a form and it got to the bit and it says, what do you want to study? I was like, shit, I didn't think about this.
Pretty good thing to know when you're going to a university, right?
So I was looking at it and I was like, what do I do? So I thought, what do I like? So I'm not doing acting. What else? Well, I guess if I'm going uni, it's academic. What do I like academically? I was like, I like numbers. I have a natural gift for numbers. I love business. Most of my family are business people. What puts both together? Economics. Oh no, that sounds really wild. Like, what is economics? Then I saw accounting. Yeah, I'll have a bit of that. And then under accounting, there was accounting and entrepreneurship. I was like, bingo. So literally on the
I
spot.
reckon you probably just identified and described 90% of the university application process.
I probably did.
Because obviously I'm an employer. I have a variety of different people come down for interviews. They can be students from affluent universities. They could be masters, even PhDs, Oxford, Cambridge, etc. Right? Genuine, legitimately. Most students who come out of university, I don't care if it's Oxford or Cambridge, MIT, don't care. Most students, I would argue, 90% don't know the arse from their elbow. Right? It's because society, and you described it even yourself, the peer pressures that we receive just from our own family structures. But you have to contemplate, where does the thinking from our family structures even come from? Where are they absorbing this narrative? Where are they getting this information? Where are they getting this, essentially this programming that is being stepped down?
Their generation, for the most part, have experienced, the Industrial Revolution. And they come from a background of where you worked in a company, you worked your way up to one day become who you are within the company. And that was the pinnacle. And one of the things that I always say to my mum till today, when she says certain things, is, Mum, I'm just as insecure working for an organization, because if the organization collapses, I'll still be out of work anyway. So I might as well do what I want to do. And at least I'm in control over whether or not the company's, in operation or not. Is that you mentioned the financial crisis when we were having a chat earlier, 2008, 2009. How many people lost their jobs then and lost their houses, when they were doing the safe thing to do? So you might as well just live your life and do, what you want to do.
I think that's a good point to segue into some more meaty, interesting subject matters, right? Because I tell you what I find really interesting right now in the sports arena, especially at boxing, professional athletes have this code, this programming that seems to be unconscious, right? And there is this uniform connection between what it is to be human. There are three components: the mind, the body, and the soul, right? One of the things that I find really interesting about professional athletes and just sports in general is it is such a obvious and harsh as well measurement of how someone maintains and manages the state of mind, body, and soul, right? Because everyone can see how an athlete, professional athlete, maintains the body complex, right? Physically in shape, ripped, jacked, athletic, whatever it is. Everyone can identify and see.
Not too jacked.
Not all about you, motherfucker. There's other athletes too. Yeah? Everyone can identify and see straight away that person is on top of his body complex or on top of her body complex, right? But then you got to think how that is the case, okay? Mind and soul, I'm super aggressively on. I have relinquished my responsibility to my body complex. And now I'm frantically sorting out. I'm building a gym in my house right now. I just had my PT here, just designing the gym. Just told you all this crazy stuff I'm doing with water. So now I'm like, okay, I've done this whole mind and soul stuff really aggressively. But Mike, you've lost 10 kilos in the process of doing this mind and this soul stuff. But an athlete, in order to get to that physical shape, there is a process of the mind, which I will pin down to self-love. Because self-love, and the greatest measurement of self-love is self-discipline, okay? Waking up at, say, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., eating the stuff that you really don't want to eat, not taking that sweet, not having that additional drink or that, but whatever it is, right? Whatever that vice is or maybe, it could be alcohol, it could be cannabis, it could be whatever it is. There are certain things that you know that if you do this thing, it's going to affect this over here. And ultimately, you love yourself too much and you've worked too freaking hard
to let yourself down.
And do that. So that's the mind and the body complex very much connected, because the body can very easily drop off if the mind ain't strong and the mind ain't solid. And I want to come back onto the mind one shortly in relation to sports, especially in a bit. And then the soul complex on top of this as well. And what I find interesting in sport is a lot of champions will attribute their successes to a higher power.
Yeah.
All right. However it is that person wants to identify what that higher power is subject to their own perspective. But as human beings, we tend to attribute great feats towards a much higher power. And I just find that one of the most interesting attributes to religion, period, anyway, because ultimately it doesn't allow us to be lazy.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow human beings to be lazy, because if you always have this divine being to aspire to become and to aspire to, we're not just going to be resting on our laurels, right? There's a measurement that we are measuring and comparing ourselves to. And then we have myths and stories of demigods, the balance between the two, Hercules, Achilles, and all of these other people throughout our history. We're showing stories and examples where these people obtain the power and the ability of God.
Yeah.
So I find that professional athletes just do this unconsciously. There's a mind, body, soul connection that the highest performing athletes, the ones that are the true great, so your true greats in history, your Alis, etc. These aren't people who have never lost or never experienced trials, tribulations, turbulence. These are people who very much have. Ali was getting freaking thrown in prison, right? He's going through this whole political instability through his era.
Yeah.
And what defines his character is the mind-body soul connection. That's the only way you could get through these bad, dark.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've read quite a few books from athletes, not just boxers. And just talking about the body connection, one of the things that's very common is athletes saying things like, they might just talk about a scene, I don't know, when I came out of this press conference before this event, and I felt this way, so I knew my body was going to da-da-da-da. So I had to go and eat whatever, or I had to take this sleep, and I didn't want to take this flight because this is how I knew it was going to. And there's an unconscious ability to understand the body, or there's an unconscious understanding of the body, should I say. But ultimately what it comes down to is an athlete who does great things is somebody who has identified, whether consciously or unconsciously, the true power within them to be able to manifest whatever they truly believe that they can achieve. And then going ahead within the physical realm to manifest that as best as they can, Again, with the belief that they are who they're going to be. So you use Muhammad Ali, for example, and I think that's a great example because he always used to chant, I'm going to show you how great I am. I'm the greatest of all time. And people called him mad. People didn't like him for it. But he said it with so much conviction. I think it's safe to...
He fought it and he spoke it into existence.
But again, I believe it's safe to assume that he genuinely believed it. And because he believed it, he was always going to manifest it. And especially through his actions. And that self-belief, that inner power that he was channeling, was what would then... Well, what you would then call the soul. And I think tapping into the soul is tapping into true self.
Bang on, because when Ali spoke, you go back and you watch any of his videos, okay? That is not a shell speaking. That is a being in the shell speaking.
Exactly.
Fundamental difference,
yeah.
Right? Because when someone just speaks, that's someone saying, I should, I would, I could. Disempowering terms and words. Anyone that says, I should do this, I would do this, I could do that, I ain't trying to listen to you, right? Your affirmations are already fucked.
Yeah.
Right? You ain't doing shit.
yeah,
right?
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's feeling what someone says. And that is, again, like the mind, body, soul connection. And that is your higher self, your true self, that inner voice that pops up. That isn't always going to be positive, right? Because sometimes that voice pops up and is negative as hell, right? It's telling you all of this BS, right?
What I find, though, sorry to cut you off, what I genuinely think, I think that universal energy is, universal energy feels good, I think. And whenever something negative's coming out of you, it's a sign that something is out of line. And it's then an opportunity for you to start to question, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I feeling that's out of line? And how do I fix it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have things that disbalance are out of line, but also as well is your perspective and the way that you process any of those disbalances, you take ownership over that. Yeah. Because what people don't identify and realize, the kind of point is that both actually touching on here, is law of attraction, right?
Yeah.
Ali was, his consciousness manifests those thoughts first. And then he speaks them by delivering them into reality through the vibrations created in his voice box. And then that affects the matter of everyone else in that room, everyone who else is watching it. He thought it, then he spoke it into existence, okay? Then he went off and backed it up. But the process of speaking it into existence, not in just his consciousness, but also other people's consciousness, directly helps manifest that positive outcome that he wanted to create. But what people don't realize is, just as tangible the law of attraction laws are, is even as tangible as this table right now, it also works on the negative. And this is where people just don't take ownership over that, right? That their toxic, negative thought process, which we all have our lapses, okay? I'm very mentally strong, okay? But I still have my lapses every now and again.
We all do.
But it's like, what do you do when you have that negative thought process pop up in your brain? How you handle that when it arrives is what defines the character. And I think with professional athletes, especially today in the social media age and era, being able to manage that mental is exponentially more difficult today than it was in Ali's era, because you didn't have some 6-year-old right calling you out on Twitter, DMing you on your Instagram, telling you that
half the time I think people say things without thinking that it's real. Yeah, so I think you got to take it with a pinch of salt. But for the most part, I don't know, I can't really speak for everyone because I know I'm very, very different to most people. And my happiness, my joy, my well-being all comes from within. So I take external factors on board only for the sake of the fact that I need that information to navigate my way through the world that we're living in, but not because my happiness is going to be determined by it. I guess that's easy to say when you haven't had a negative, national media backlash of any sort. But I think even if I did, I'd deal with it well. Like when I lost that fight against Zach Chelly, I had quite a few people piping up on comments, which I believe 80% of which are coming from his team because the shit that was chatting. I was just like, this doesn't even make sense. But that things like that, like, I could just look at it and it's, it's like, yeah, whatever, like your opinion, cool. Whereas I think some people take it on hard. Probably because, again, they might not be as identified with the soul as they should be. But all in all, I think what we're trying to say is to be an elite athlete, you need to be peak in your mind, soul, and body. And the soul comes first, really. That determines everything else. So when the soul wants something bad enough, it would push the mind and inevitably the body, or consequently the body, to do the right things to manifest it. And when you say things like, I guess on your channel I can talk like this, but when you say things like Ali spoke things into existence, again, it's not just the words he's speaking. Like you said, it was a vibration that he's emitting when he's speaking it. And that vibration, the stronger your emotions behind your intent, yeah, then the stronger it is. So the stronger he genuinely believed what he was saying, the stronger the emotion would be when he's vocalizing it. But especially when there are people saying, "Oh, you're just a big mouth," but because he would have been so convinced that he was right, he would have been thinking, "How dare you tell me otherwise? Like, I know, I can see." So again, that intensifies the emotion even further. So when he's speaking these things, yes, it's the word, but the word is just a tool to allow him to project that vibration out, which then affects everything on a quantum level. And then that helps drive to making it a reality. And
so you brought up the Zach Shelley fight and defeat.
Yeah.
And this ties in really well with what we're discussing right now, because I think we sat down 2-3 weeks after the fight, a few weeks after the fight.
Yeah, a few weeks after, about a month, I think.
Yeah.
So did I travel first? I did, right?
Yeah.
So about 3-4 weeks. Yeah.
So we sat down after the fight. Obviously, straight after the fight, I sent you a text message, and then we sat down. But I'll be completely honest with you, I had no concerns about your mental state.
By the way, I appreciate that message.
Like no concerns over your mental state throughout that whole period, right? I actually walked away from that fight entertained as hell. That was an incredible fight, right? Anyone who went to that whole card and witnessed that whole card was pretty freaking interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it just for the fact that you're in front of me right now and we have our associations, etc. But the Sadiq Shelley fight was, in my opinion, the most exciting fight that night. It was just an exciting fight. And it had multiple different waves through the fight as well. And we'll touch on like some of the other little bits that we discussed as to maybe kind of little niggles like around like the fight, the drama around the fight. But I think that is a perfect example and demonstration for me when I was sitting across the table from you and we was having lunch that time. That just solidified in my mind your position as to your mental state, your mind, body, soul connection. Because that's what I look for when I'm spending my time with people, right? Especially now with my new perspective on life that's been engineered over 16 years of just diligent research on a daily freaking basis. I'm a lot more guarded about who I let into my circles these days, okay? And whoever it is that I let into my circle these days, the thing that I look for as a trait is connection. Not with myself. Yeah, byproduct, I see how I'm going to connect with that person, but with themselves, right? The mind, body, soul connection of an individual with themselves, right? Because that in combination with a burning desire to win, whatever it is, right? A burning desire to affect change, whether in the self or their mission or wherever it is, that combined with those three attributes, those are the people I like spending the time with. Those are the people that I can back. Those are the people that I know, irrespective of what gets thrown in their direction, when things get hard, when things get tough, when their back's against the wall, when they feel the world is against them, it doesn't matter. Because when that moment happens, they don't seek external validation or discernment. They look for internal discernment, right? And when we sit down, we're chilling, having our chat, that's literally all you was emitting, right? All you was emitting. And I feel like sports people get a really bad rap with that because everything is so displayed. It's all statistics. It's, oh, I'm now 5-1, or I'm 22-0, and now I've got that one on my record.
Yeah.
And I think it's viewed way too judgmentally and way too seriously because everyone gets knocked the fuck out. I get knocked the fuck out. I've been knocked the fuck out multiple times in business.
Yeah.
Right? But the difference is that if you have a life decision or a business decision that didn't go well, life is a war. Anyone that says they win every single battle in the war of life is absolutely talking crap. Or
they're going to lose the war.
Or they're going to lose the war. Or I'd like to know where the hell they live and why life's so rosy, right? But you are going to lose battles along the way, okay? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, if when you lose that battle, that is then taken as a way of harnessing and strengthening your approach and yourself. So that when you go back on the battlefield, you're stronger and better, right? Everyone does this. So sporting professionals are no different to this. The difference is that statistic skews the real perception of what we all deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I think that is a big part of it. However, I also think it's down to the individual to overcome it. So if, for example, a business person was to, let's say, for example, I think, was it Debenhams I heard, going into administration or something. Let's say, for example, M&S, well and truly documented, they've had all sorts of issues for years. Now, let's imagine they had to downsize to 20% and, half the products that they're selling. If they then come back strongly, so learn from the mistakes, like you're saying, address what happened, address where they got it wrong, i.e. update your fashion department.
I like their PJs, their boxers, their socks.
I don't buy anything from them anymore, apart from food. They do really good food. But if they went to have a honest brief of themselves and came back really strong, new campaigns, new product lines, maybe even came into different avenues, different sectors of things that they never even touched before. Maybe even started providing services, came back with a bang. Product's great. We recognize the name, so we're willing to give it a go. And actually, we do like it. It's brilliant. So we're going to keep having it. They can come back and take over the market. And there'll always be that memory of, they're about to go bust. But human beings are very fickle. And because of that, people always value you, I think, for what you're currently giving them. So although they would always remember, the hiccup, so to speak, the one in your record. What really matters is what you do after and what you're giving to people in the moment. Because just as quickly as they can stop loving you, they could also do it the other way around and quickly start loving you again, or respecting you.
Yeah, great. So kind of like the saying that always gets thrown around. You're only as good as your last deal. You're only as good as your last victory. Whatever it is, you're only as good as your last.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have a mantra where you don't even see that, you're just plowing forward self-development for self-development's sake, the only battle I'm ever interested in fighting, the only battle I ever have, and this has been a state of consciousness for me for at least now 3 years, it's taking me to achieve this state. But for 3 years now, the only battle I ever have is with myself. I am oblivious, completely oblivious to others, their opinions, whatever, I don't care, right? Because my view is that if you have something that is nourishing, even if it is completely contrary to my viewpoint, if you put it forward in a respectful way and manner, and it turns out to actually be factually correct and does boycott my view, no problem at all. I will actually hug you for educating me.
For helping you grow.
Helping me grow. Yeah. So I think that's just a powerful, powerful state of mind for any individual who is aspiring to get to any apex of any industry. Right. And that apex doesn't need to be identified within the industry. That apex is just the mountain of yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Because that is really the ultimate goal and objective for me. True self-love. Because when you truly, truly love yourself, and as narcissistic as that statement sounds on the surface, right? How can you expect someone else to love you if you don't love yourself? And I think this is like one of the issues with society, period. We always expect someone else to make us feel better, someone else to make us successful,
For
someone
me,
else.
that statement there has different levels of depth. So on the surface level is exactly what you just said. And I document it very often that I enjoy spending time with myself. And sometimes people ask why, like, why'd you do that? And I'm like, well, if I don't enjoy my own company, how can I expect anyone else to enjoy my company? So I guess it's the same thing. But for me, on a deeper level, I identify with oneness. So I think truly love yourself is to, first of all, truly understand who self is, which is infinite, which means everything and everybody. And when you truly love yourself, you'd only do pleasurable and nice things to and for yourself. And therefore, when you realize that self is everything, you'd only do good and nice things for everything, everyone that you come in contact with, so on and so forth. And that just ultimately makes your true love basically ultimately makes you a nicer and better human being.
So that's the whole law of one narrative. Even in the Bible, love thyself as thou love thy neighbor, right? Ultimately, all core spiritual teachings, religious teachings, wherever people want to brand them as, right, is just don't be a wanker. Be more service to others than you are to self.
You're right, because growing up as well in my early teenage years, so my father was a Muslim, my mum is a Christian, and I was
that must be interesting.
So I was at 13,
quite strong, like Muslim
very strong, different, So I was at 13, 14 saying I've got to decide which one I want to be. Got to pick a side. And so I started...
Well, just be sitting, oh Lord, what am I going to do?
They're both praying in their own separate rooms, But so I started looking deeper into the Bible, into the Quran. And then one day it just struck me and I was like, wait a minute. There's so many other religions. What if one of my parents was born to any of these other religions? So, I started I couldn't bother to read all these books, admittedly. So I started looking for videos and audio CDs at the time. So, then I started looking into Buddhism, Judaism, just like Hinduism even, just like whatever it was I can get my hands on that felt mainstream enough to me at the time, I looked into. And I did this, I don't know, probably for like a couple of years. And I just got to realization that all everyone is saying is basically be a bloody good person. This is very simple. Be a good person. Anything you want, you can have. Just have some faith and treat everyone as you'd like to be treated. Like, it's very, very simple. And everyone's saying the same thing, but in so many different ways.
So how far is that journey actually taking you? Because that's a rabbit hole. And then when you get to the bottom of that rabbit hole, there's another one, then another one, then another one.
And there's always another one.
Then if you start getting into the symbols, that all of these religions that you just referenced, all reference the exact same symbol. Yeah. And then you see that symbol from ancient Babylonian times that predates every religion that we just spoke about by at least 1,000 years. Right? So how far have you gone into these areas?
There have been ebbs and flows on my journey. So like today, I might say something sometimes and someone will look at me like quite weirdly and be like, are you spiritual? And then,
you woke, man, you woke.
And I'll be like, but my answer is always, I'm on a spiritual path. And they go, what does that mean? I was like, I'm learning, I'm growing every day. And there's still so much to learn. And there's that old adage of the more you find out, the more you realize you don't know. It's genuinely that. But from working out, all religions are saying the same thing. I've started to try to understand the world that we're living in better and where all these religions are getting their information from, because there's so many different, traditions and ethnic heritages and people from different parts of the world that as far as we know, at the times that these religions were made, they didn't have means of sharing this information across the globe. So how are they all saying the same thing? So how, what's causing them to come up with the same information? So I started delving into that. So I started looking into things like spirit science, learning about the potentiality of, aliens coming previously, things about understanding the Bermuda Triangle and, Bermuda and Atlantis. Then somehow, I don't know how, but somehow along those lines, I fell into learning about conspiracy theories. And what happened with that is I got so deep into it that about a year into looking into it, I think I wasn't ready for the information, for what I was finding, because what happened about a year later was I realized I was starting to see the whole world differently, and it freaked me out. Like a Lamborghini would go past and everyone, you can imagine, impressionable at 17, 18 would be, oh, that's sick. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a piece of metal with some rubber on the wheels,
And the rubber doesn't always stay on the wheels, by the way.
Yeah, but depends how you drive it. The wheels don't always stay on the road either. Yeah. Classic. So basically my view of the world just started changing, and like I'd watch TV or I'd watch a movie, and instead of enjoying the story and someone's efforts of expressing themselves through an art form, what I was watching was, here we go. And these things are still with me to some degree, but I'll be like, here we go. Oh, they're just trying to condition everyone's mind with this. Oh, look at that symbol over there. Oh, yeah, of course the character's going to be a blonde-haired white guy. And, all of this. And then it took away from the experience. And after a while, I was like, I'm either going mad or I'm not ready for this. Either way, I need to stop.
And this is why I'm glad that you just painted it out that way, because I feel like that is the journey that people go on. It is probably one of the most contentious, all of those subject matters are like the most contentious subject matters, right? And then even with sharing those thoughts with friends and family can be a very uncomfortable experience until you have, I guess, a history of being factually correct on what it is that you're saying, because this has been very much my experience, right? And I've been on this journey for 16 years now, stemming back from being sparked by Gary McKinnon, the guy that hacked NASA, and getting confirmation of the fact that there's structures on the moon, getting confirmation of that from like the most credible person at the time. And that's just had me on a consistent daily binge of my core mantra of bettering my education and my knowledge, being a smarter version of myself tomorrow than I am today. I've been doing that for 16 years. Do that consistently for that period of time, you then get to a state of consciousness, which I'll say I really broke through about 5 years ago. And it's just been growing at a incredibly accelerated and rapid rate year on year since that first initial breakthrough, where every single year, my whole perspective of the world is broader and wider, and it transcends just Earth. We're going into the universe itself and how everything factors in on that. So then to be walking around, right? I could be just chilling, just driving my car in traffic, and the world genuinely slows down for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just observing people watching, and I'm seeing all of these different symbols and these connections that other people just don't even realize is there. And then I have this challenge and this burden, because there are deliberate deflammatory terms that are seeding into our consciousness to prevent people like you and I from sharing this journey.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory, crazy, tinfoil hat man, and all these other like crazy like terms to make you feel disempowered for having a
but you don't have to
thought process.
You can. So I met a guy recently, similar thing, and he picked up on a few things I said, and he looked at me and he went, "How weird are you?" But he didn't say it in a judgmental way. He said it in a genuine, curious way. So I looked at him and I went, "You what?" He went, "How weird are you?" And I went, "I don't get it." He goes, "All right, I'm weird, but I want to know how weird you are."
But that's the thing. It's like this little like sizing up of, okay, how much can I really say?
Exactly.
And I feel like this is my life on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's now to the point where I learned that applying the 10% rule is the most healthy way, because if you data dump on your perspective, okay, and being in your, like I was explaining to you earlier before the camera turned on, I've been in this consciousness bubble now for a very long period of time, okay, and I haven't really been engaging or interacting with many other people, many people outside of this this bubble. So the issue is that when you live in essentially this knowledge bubble and you're not even cross-referencing, okay? Because a lot of this stems from, like I said, 16 years ago, okay? And only when I took myself out of this bubble, I started speaking to others and realizing, speaking to PhD, I'm talking about top PhDs, all right? From top universities, don't know their arse from their elbow. I'm not talking about students, I'm talking about lecturers.
Yeah.
Okay. And they want to sit down and talk to me about quantum physics. They want to sit down and talk to me about artificial intelligence, right? Blockchain technology, string theory, right? Which is bollocks. Okay. Unified field physics. And not in a million years did any of these people think that they'll be walking out that room the lesser informed man, right? Because the way that educational systems design, the way that society is orchestrated and designed is that you have to go through these certain gates to get to wisdom and to get to knowledge, right? Which is bollocks. I'm spending my whole being debunking this statement, right? But the issue then is that when you obtain a certain degree of enlightenment, and then you are of the intent to bathe others in that enlightenment, not just take it for yourself and form these little cliques and groups that we call secret societies and these little, even like religion, I'll say, conforms to this as well, is you just create concentrated pockets of knowledge, right? Very much at the detriment to your fellow man. And then even you have to look at it as religion and what science is. And religion, you guys do this part, you guys do the whole God stuff, faith stuff, and make people consider this in a kind of magical, esoteric way. And the science, we'll do all of this stuff over there, and we'll kind of observe the universe, but from the perspective that we are not part of the universe, which I think is just completely retarded in itself, right? Because just by definition, the fact that we are alive and we are on this pebble called Earth as human beings, and this pebble is within this solar system is within this Milky Way, and this Milky Way is within this, right? And in the universe, how can something that is dead and be observed objectively produce life?
Well, what you're touching on there is the sheer arrogance of man. And so, for example, if you think at any point in history, a man who's always thought he had all the answers, and then he gets proven wrong by the next generation, and then the next generation, so on and so forth. But either way, on every single generation that history tells us, at the time, they thought they knew everything. They thought they had all the answers, and whatever they couldn't see happening was impossible. So that's the ignorance of man. Anyway.
That's the most like humbling and healthy underpinning to any educational process. And you actually touched on it earlier on in the podcast, is what you know will always be finite. It doesn't matter if I've got another 300 years of my life to glean and gain knowledge from others. And there's two different variants of knowledge. You have outer knowledge, inner knowledge. Outer knowledge is the encapsulation of information from other human beings into one.
Yeah.
Right? This is very much regulated by time. We've got circa 80 years to do it on this planet. Even if you extend that to 300 years, okay, you've got a factor of 4x minimum of the average lifespan to glean information from other human beings into one being. You're going to be a very wise human being at the end of that 300 years, right? However, that's still soliciting the discernment of others. There's something else that's inner knowledge, that cosmic code, what scientists want to tell us that 90% is junk of our DNA. Exactly. That there's nothing in there. There's nothing of value within that. And then they have the same thought process on space and dark matter and all of these things that they can't explain is rendered irrelevant.
Exactly. And and this is the thing. So you literally what I was trying to say, at any given time when science wasn't able to deliver on something, it was called impossible or irrelevant. But again, coming back to the consciousness that you're talking about, again, the knowledge of self, you understand that everything that is, was, and ever would be already exists. It means that if you're able to imagine something, it means that it's possible. So Wright brothers, like most documented planes, oh no, they can never do it, to the point where no one from the media even turned up when they wanted to test out the planes, and then they did it. Yeah. But the thing is, at the time, nobody could do it. So they're like, no, you guys are talking crazy. But the fact that they could imagine it means that it's possible. So, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to get at is going back to the core thing of that. There's the ignorance of man of always thinking that he knows everything and therefore feeling the need to have an answer for everything. So within organized religion or not, man would always say, no, this is how it is. This is the reason. And if I can't have the reason, then I'm going to export it to heaven. It was God.
But if you really want to get contentious,
yeah.
I'm going to put this ownership on me as opposed to you right now, right? This is where I find religion fascinating, incredibly fascinating. I've studied most of the obvious religions, so Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Muslim, so the Quran. And the overwhelming thing, so go back circa, I'll say when I was about 15, I would have identified as atheist, okay? Ironically, through studying the sciences, history, Sumerians, Anunnaki, ancient Egyptians, Mayans, everything in between, brought me to an understanding of, okay, there is a divine being, right? Identifying who or what that is, that's a more interesting conversation and subject matter. However, what I then found from understanding all of this stuff, which seeded all of our religions, is how incredibly accurate religion truly is. If we just take the Bible as a reference point, okay? And again, my contentious subject matter. Every reference in the Bible to the heavens is speaking of space. Every reference to angels is speaking of different beings with just different abilities.
Yeah.
Okay? So being able to break things down, and the fact that this is very symbolic, it's very metaphorical, being able to understand and break down these metaphors is where the true, if you want to call it, wisdom of God can be decoded and can be be
I generally
understood.
think that most religious text was created in. Now I understand that I could be wrong, but my view on them is that most of them were created with the right intent to help guide people on a good spiritual path. And they're essentially tools to help keep people on that path. So you weren't necessarily told exactly why certain things worked. You were just told, look, do this and it's going to work. But this is the encouragement to do it, because otherwise, you might burn in hell, whatever. I don't agree with fear being a motivation for people to do things, but whatever floats your boat. Either way, I do think that you said there are a lot of spiritual accuracies and meaningfulness within religious texts that have helped a lot of people. But unfortunately, there are also, the consequences of segregation.
So we wanted to apply 10% rules, and this, whenever this subject matter is even lightly trodden, I perk the hell up. Right,
Yeah,
and I'm ready to go. Like, this is my arena now. Right?
Trust me, ready to rumble.
I'm the heavyweight in this arena right now.
Actually, that's really true. So, just from a vlog. So, we're gonna introduce Mike soon. But the first time I ever met Mike was through a mutual friend, randomly at Basaba, and not that I'm, not that I'm promoting them. They don't pay me, but it was good food though. But after we left, so we met probably like 8 p.m. and we stayed till we basically got kicked out because we got carried away chatting as we are now. And then we left, and I said to my friend Kelvin, I said, your friend Mike is vibrating on a higher frequency than potentially anyone I've met in recent time. And I don't know if I told you this, but that's what I said to him. And he said, you really think? He was like proper shocked. I was like, yeah. I said, I'm on a spiritual path. I'm not claiming to know, anything significant, but based on what I know so far, the guy is vibrating on a higher frequency. And that was before I even knew what Bitstocks was. That's before I knew anything else besides the conversations we had. So I think that's testament to the fact that, yeah, you are a heavyweight in this region, but I just thought to put that in so that what you're saying carries a bit more weight.
I appreciate that, bro. And this is what I mean by only wanting to vibe with people who I resonate with on a frequency. This is the energetic thing, right? You can have a conversation. That's one thing. That's just an exchange of words and information. Or you can have a conversation where it's an exchange of vibration and feeling, right? Because you could contain a lot more information in frequency and energy, right? So that instantly like sparked interest. I was like, cool. The first thing was you was like to me, you ain't got no meat on your plate. I was like, no. He's like, you vegan? I was like, yeah. He's like, you ain't got no meat either. It's like, you vegan? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, what do you do? He's like, I'm a professional. He's like, I'm a boxer. I was like, that's a good reason to be vegan.
Yeah.
I was like, what do I do? I was like, oh, just science, bro. I was like, it's just the science.
Yeah.
But so the thing that I always find like so exciting with what's going on the planet, right? I think this is a beautiful time to be alive, right?
Definitely.
Because these types of conversations, the fact that we're even in this room right now, you have a professional image in the boxing arena, you're super middleweight, you're working under the promotion of Frank Warren, right? And the fact that I'm obviously CEO of Bitstocks and we're doing what it is that we're doing with the cryptocurrency space and community, and we're on our mission of what we can do to help impact and change the world. 10 years ago, we shouldn't be having this conversation. Society wouldn't be ready for two people to sit in a room, speak about all the different subject matters, but then all of a sudden we're talking about religion and we're talking about spirituality, we're speaking about different ideals, because fundamentally, this is actually what connects
everyone
and
everything.
everything.
There is a transformation in the global consciousness, I feel. But whilst we're on the subject of what you do at Bitstocks, obviously you're the CEO. So a lot of times people see me and they say, "Oh, you're into cryptocurrency." I go, "Whoa, I wouldn't say that. Like, I mean, yeah, I have an interest, but I don't necessarily do anything in it." And they go, or I get questions like, "Oh, you're sponsored by you're sponsored by Bitcoin." Okay, if only there was a thing. Yeah. So basically, in short, there is a lot of curiosity around what Bitstocks is, and I always try to explain it as best as I could to people, but I always feel like I'm doing it an injustice when I try to explain it. So now that I have you here and I have the opportunity, I'd like you to, introduce yourself a little bit, what Bitstocks is about, and why we have this partnership together that we have.
Sure. So we originally set out with a goal of wanting to affect change from a financial system that provides an equilibrium of access. Not equilibrium in terms of a socialist distribution of funds. That's what many people in the cryptocurrency space seem to think this space is about. It's about socialist way of dealing with capital. Definitely not our view. What this technology does and what I identified, what I saw in this technology is for the first time ever, human beings have this secondary condition required to be truly sovereign. The first condition we've been speaking about this whole podcast, that is the...
Wait, so can you just explain briefly what being sovereign means? Because some listeners may not.
So sovereign is to have only internal consultment's not even a word, internal discernment to what your actions are or aren't. Someone else isn't the gatekeeper to your decision-making process. Someone doesn't tell you what is or isn't. Someone doesn't have the right to say, I'm increasing the UK's monetary supply through quantitative easing, all of these crazy banking terms or government-driven terms that go over most people's head and make that person sound smart. And basically, you're just saying you're hitting a button on a computer, you're inflating the monetary supply. But when you inflate the monetary supply, that new money has to get its value from where? The existing monetary supply, which then diminishes the purchasing power of the pounds in your pocket.
And then they call it inflation and they talk about it like it's such a great thing.
So you can't be sovereign. In fact, let me just really explain the financial system as to then why we're building a solution to it. The reason why it is very difficult, is skewed against you to achieve sovereignty in this economic system, is that it is very much designed by nature to rob you of all money is time. Okay? Every pound, dollar, yen in circulation is owed to somebody by somebody. If all debts were paid off, there would be no money in circulation. So then it begs the question, okay, what is money really? Is it a liberator or is it a hindrance? What is it designed to do? Is it designed to oppress or is it designed to free and liberate? Now, you speak to any aspiring wealthy individual. Why is it that you wish to aspire to become wealthy? Two categories tend to form. One group would be pursuit and consolidation of power. These are not the kind of people that I want to sit down with and have a good conversation with. And I encounter, as you know, I'm involved in quite a few different wealth circles. I encounter these people on a very consistent basis. I have zero interest in engaging with them on any personal level beyond business, right? The vast majority of us would be, I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to travel the world. When I grew up, my passion was to be an actor, like you were saying, right? And then you was
We can still do this, man.
you was conditioned to snap out of that, right? So what are we saying at the core primitive level? You need to acquire enough of this fictitious thing called money so you can effectively buy your own freedom. So you can do what you want to do with not your money, but the time that money yields you, right? Then you look at, okay, what are the conditions that nourish this action? And then you start looking at the fact that in the UK, at least, post-retirement age is only a time where people can actually start benefiting from the time it is that they've acquired. Well, now we're too old and health imbalance due to bullshit in our water supply, the bullshit in our food, pharmaceutical companies, the frequency bombardment that's happening right now, just look into 5G and all these other things. There is such an attack on the human condition that even once you've purchased your freedom post-retirement age, you start looking at statistics, it's closer to 70 to 55, right? You now can't enjoy that freedom it is that you've purchased. Then you look at, okay, the social conditioning, Instagram, Insta babes, Insta guys, right? All caught up in a body complex, modifying their body complex, lip implants, hair transplants.
Getting jacked up.
There's nothing wrong with that with balance, right? But the issue is with social media is it creates this conditioning where there's this continuous insecure comparison against people that you've never even met in your life. And when you do meet them, guess what? They don't even look like the freaking picture that you are comparing yourself with, right? And then you got materialism being fueled into society, right? The definition of success is that I drive a Lamborghini. No, I just like Lamborghinis, right? And I was drawing pictures of Lamborghinis and Ferraris when I was 6 years old. And in my consciousness, I've already made an agreement with the universe. I'm gonna have a crazy car collection. It's a passion of mine. Money has yielded me the ability to pursue that passion. It is not how I identify success. It's not how someone else should identify.
It's a consequence of your sovereignty.
It's a consequence. So, but the way that society is conditioned is that you have the Floyd Mayweather interpretation of what success is. Okay, this trap of materialism. This is just creating prisons for ourselves. This is locking ourselves into the body complex and identifying ourselves as the shell and not the fucking being who lives within the shell, right? When you obtain that understanding of what the global pyramid of power is, divine right to rule, bloodlines, banking families, banking ecosystem in itself, the commodities and resources being the layer beneath that. Then you've got the media and control distribution mechanism, religion, educational system, which is designed to then control the conditions to what we perceive these higher echelons of the triangle to be. Then at the very bottom, you've got the debt slave, which obviously supports the whole weight of the system. Then you look at facts and statistics. There's been 4,000 different variants of government money. 4,000 different variants of government money. The average lifespan is 27 freaking years. Okay? So the evidence clearly supports if this was actually designed to liberate and not to oppress, the governments wouldn't get it wrong so many freaking times that have such a low success rate of running a positive economic system or a stable, successful economic system. So then begs the question, then you look at money creation. Every single central bank is private. They're not government owned, they're private. Okay. And then when government wants money, they take bonds, which is our tax earnings and our future children's tax earnings. They sell it to the private banks, the central banks. New money is then printed on the screen, goes into our monetary supply. And guess what? It's our future children's children who've
got to pay for it. Yeah.
Paying off for that debt.
Yeah.
So
well, sometimes they can even just confiscate your money.
Yeah. So there's this very disbalanced power structure of the world. And then when you have these types of conditions, it then creates this on-demand, insecure, I'm willing to do anything to be let through that gate of financial freedom. So these will be your media moguls, right? As a perfect example, the gatekeepers that define and decide whether you do become the next Alicia Keys or you don't. So it doesn't matter about your voice, it matters about the gate. And what are you willing to do to get through this gate, right? And that goes into a very dark area. So if anyone wants to research that, go away, just hit the town and you find loads of things on that dark subject matter to support what it is. But these are conditions to a by design condition as to what I'll call the modern human condition. This is designed in this way. What started chinking the armor in this and destroying and disseminating this is the internet. The reason why this is the case is because prior to the internet, the distribution and control mechanism of the distributed word, the spoken word, was our educational systems, which are regulated, designed, and are very controlled narratives as to what is or isn't. History was always one of my subject matters that I really loved. But then I got to a certain position of understanding within the school structure that I started questioning history because I used to have a lot of conflicts in the playground, believe it or not, right? And when I'll go home, and my dad's like 6'5", right? 6'5", huge, big black guy, right? And he gives you the black man eyes as well, like bloodshot eyes when he's angry, boy. You done something wrong, it's like the eyes get you first, yeah?
You just get told off by a look.
You just get told off by a look. And it's like, you know what, let me start crying before I even get the first lick, so it takes it easy on me. But, so when I'll go home, and my dad would ask me every single time, same question: what happened? He won't tuck in on me. Straight away, first thing he asked me, what happened? He gave me an opportunity to change history. Because if I was the antagonist in the playground and it was my fault, and I was the guy that was being the bellend, I would change the course of history when my dad asked me that question. It no longer became history, it became his story.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that's just me in the playground. Right? So this wasn't some genius breakthrough. I was just like, okay, well, I'm changing history. So what makes me think that the Crusades happened this way?
Yeah.
Right? That all of these most important historical events in human history that is being pushed through to us on the mainstream, who has really fact-checked it?
Yeah. Who was the objective viewer who wrote the script?
Most of human history is written by the victor.
Of course.
Right? So the vast majority of human history is written by the victor. Like in my scenario, I say I won that fight, and then I had the opportunity to tell the story to my dad. I'm changing it. I'm skewing the history. Yeah. Right. So we think that at the highest echelons of our history, that this has not happened. Mm-hmm. Right? It's a very naive, dangerous view to go down. The internet started destroying this. The internet allowed human beings to connect on a peer-to-peer basis and have conversations as easily as you and I are having in this room right now, and in fact check those resources and really expedite the process of outer knowledge, obtaining information from other human beings into one being. The internet just started chinking away at this whole power structure that has been in place now for thousands of years. The control and the distribution of information, the internet is just chopping that away. Yeah. This is why we have Trump in office. This is why we've got Brexit going on right now. This is why we've got Yellow Vest movement going on in Europe. It's on the verge of collapse. This is the internet. Okay? That is the first ring of sovereignty that human beings needed as a prerequisite to start changing our condition on this planet. The second one that was always missing is, okay, if I've got knowledge can actually be weaponized against me now. Because if I got knowledge and I'm now seeing things, so let's say I work in a banking institution or banking infrastructure, I work in a government office, and I see corruption. And if I've seen corruption in this government office, what do? I'm on, say, 100K salary, all right? I've got a mortgage, I've got car payments. My kids are in school. I have, at the end of the month, only £500 of the salary that I'm getting on a monthly basis, okay? So I'm earning well, and I want to maintain my lifestyle, but at the same time, I'm not sovereign, right? So I'm going to be part of this system for decades until I achieve that freedom. Okay. So I then witness corruption. My inner being wants to speak out against this corruption. Okay. But then my practical thinking now is, okay, well, what's going to happen if I do? Right? How am I going to be disempowered? Even worse, depending on what it is, am I going to be taken out? Right? These are the issues that has allowed corruption for so long to continue.
To go unchecked, yeah.
It's not that there aren't good people. The vast majority of corruption happening on this planet is by the minority at the expense of the majority. So to say government is a bad term to use, because what do you mean by government? When I ever reference government, I'm not talking about a blanket term of government. Within every blanket, whether it be a corporate blanket, whether it be a government blanket, it doesn't matter what it is. You have good human beings and you have bad human beings in every respective field, right? So when you are exposed to corruption and you don't have the ability to speak out against it, let's say instead of earning 100K, you're now a multimillionaire, you're now worth 100 million. It's arguably extrapolated because now you've got all of that wealth that is so fragile. If you own 50 million worth of property, guess what? That property is registered against the land registry, okay? Government central database. They suspect you're doing something wrong. You don't own that property no more. Your money's in a bank account. Guess what? It's not your money. It's the bank's money. You do something wrong, your money's gone. Then we had Bretton Woods agreement with gold, right? And the confiscation of gold. Okay, gold was determined illegal in America for decades off the back of the 1929 economic recession and the Great Depression, right? So then they started robbing people's gold.
Yeah, and they still do it till today.
The most recent one was India.
Yeah,
right.
And they would literally just go to the banks and say, "Give us everyone's money." And
so, if you achieve a large amount of wealth, now you're paranoid and you're insecure about the wealth it is that you've gleaned. It's now being weaponized against you. Okay. So the next question is when people do achieve and obtain wealth, right? Is how do I protect myself? How do I be able to be who I truly am without the fear of losing my freedom, right? Because I've worked so bloody hard for this. I want to make sure that I don't lose it. And I'm just a small issue. I want to make sure that this can be passed down generation to generation to generation. So I've got to make sure this is protected all the way through. So if I'm witnessing, I'm privy to some form of corruption, am I going to risk exposing that? And all of this that I have built for me, my family, and the families that precede moving forward? Or am I really truly going to speak out because that is what my inner being wants to do? This is where people get distorted. This is where people are easily turned to the dark side because this is ultimately being weaponized against you. Agendas, right? Bitcoin is the last piece that completes this sovereignty puzzle. With Bitcoin, it takes the same attributes of the internet of peer-to-peer means of communication, and it does that to money, right? So if you own £10,000 in Bitcoin, guess what? You own £10,000 in Bitcoin. In terms of the actual coins itself, the monetary value exchange rate is volatile as hell, right? But in terms of the coins itself, you own that.
No one confiscates it or freezes it.
No one could take that from you. There is an incredible power that comes along with that. Then you have to factor in that this is code. This is just numbers. This is data. So that means that it can live in anything. And money is the necessary blanket, foundational precondition that then allows us to build this whole new internet that is fueled by this new monetary system. Right now, we've got a case going on with PewDiePie, 93 million followers on YouTube, the biggest YouTube star, right? He's essentially now boycotting YouTube and he's now doing his online streams on a cryptocurrency platform, okay? This is a game changer for content creators. If you are a content creator, even boxing, you are a content creator, right? There are distribution mechanisms that you are reliant upon in order to get your content out there. And every distribution mechanism that you're reliant upon takes a piece of who you are, takes a piece of your sovereignty, right? In a cryptocurrency world, in a Bitcoin world that is completed, so you've got the real benefits of the internet and Bitcoin combined together. Well, now, why not I just put on my own private event? If I'm a comedian and I want to put on a show, I could do a live streaming show and I could charge my fan base can stream directly. If I'm watching a movie on the Bitcoin version of Netflix and I'm 20 minutes in, I just want to pay for the 20 minutes, right? I don't want to pay for the whole freaking movie because I didn't enjoy it. But let me just see how it is, and I'll pay a fraction of a cent a second, right? I'm 20 minutes in, I'm thinking, do I like this movie? Cut it off next, right? The charging mechanisms of everything completely changes, right? This allows human beings to be genuinely, truly sovereign. The first condition of it just being money is completely, utterly game-changing. It's just the first condition. From Bitstocks, I identified this and said, okay, look, let's get the first conditions out there. Let's build an investment house that's an educational firm. We've got an advisory desk, which we manage other people's money for them on an individual basis. And then we've got an OTC desk that just allows people to trade large quantities of crypto. But what we're building now with Gravity is a complete banking Bitcoin ecosystem where you've got current accounts, debit cards, loans. You've got the ability now to use this and not even really have to speak about crypto. It's like, just give it to your mum and your mum will be able to use it, right? And the powerful thing about that is this is what we now need to then have other jurisdictions, people in South America, people in Africa, rural areas of India, China, now getting access to a stable, neutral economic system. And this is the powerful thing about what it is that we're doing here at Bitstocks. It's very much a mission. It's very financially driven, but money and profit is not a dirty word. It's not a bad word. As long as you identify and understand that it's time. And
like that's what you mentioned earlier, we've been educated and conditioned to associate having wealth and money with negative connotations, so to speak. So, you know, filthy rich and stinking rich, and everyone who's rich is greedy, and, you know, it's a pig or whatever. But I mean, even in the poorest parts of the world, these people still exist. So clearly money isn't the cause of it.
Yeah. And it most certainly isn't the root of all happiness either.
No, it's not.
It really, that's a very naive view.
Yeah.
It enables you to pursue fulfillment if you're wise enough to do that with the time. If you're just there being Scrooge McDuck counting your coins, right? You're not being out there pursuing your passions that lead to your fulfillment. Then, like,
you know what? Actually, when people say that to me, I never actually debate it because I don't think it's a debate to be had. So when people make comments like money doesn't buy happiness, my simple response is neither does being broke. So why are we discussing it? You know, like there isn't a debate to be had. They don't tie in. So yeah, that's my view on it. But yeah, that was a very in-depth and clearly passionate.
You asked me about my baby, man. You asked me about my baby.
I should expected it. No, but I think towards the end, especially, you encapsulated, you know, pretty much what Bitstocks is about. And like you said, it's about offering people sovereignty and around the world. I remember one of the first conversations we had was about your intent to carry the Bitstock platform to developing countries and to people in, I don't know, is this announced yet?
We could talk about South America, Africa. Those are two focus areas.
Yeah.
Right now, it's UK and Europe.
Yeah.
And then next year, we'll be focusing on those other areas.
Yeah,
just
but
legal wills.
Yeah, in short, like one of the things I really, really loved was the fact that you weren't just thinking of this thing that you're going to create to, you know, offer sovereignty and, you know, within your bubble, so to speak, and your ecosystem. You're thinking of the world as a whole. You're thinking, wait a minute, what about the guys that are out of reach in this developing community where they don't even have access to power 5 days a week, you know? And that, for me, that struck a chord because I feel very passionately about helping people live a better quality of life. And as you know, I've, you know, traveled to volunteer to do charity work in the past, and I still try to be as charitable as possible. My current economic position and, you know, life structure, i.e. training, coming here, training, puts me in a position right now where I've essentially got to make sure that look after myself to a point where I'm in a position to then help other people. But just to hear someone who's already in that position and thinking about it was something that's very refreshing, because I think we need more people like you. And that was another thing about you that made me feel like actually you want to maintain a relationship with this person, because their view on life and the world and their goals are in line with yours.
a really important point, and I'm going to be a consistent reminder of that throughout our friendship, is one of the hardest lessons I learned is you have to help yourself before you can adequately help others.
100%.
Because trying to do both is impossible. That's something that I've learned. And this is like family, friend circles, etc. Like, and no burden or disrespect to them, but when your back's against the wall, right? Those are the times where you're going to have that conversation with yourself, okay? And you're going to realize that all of these people it is that you have helped, okay? In that time when your back's against the wall, not because these people don't want to help you, and not that they wouldn't help you, they don't have the capacity or the means to help the issues that you have.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that I've got all of these mouths to feed on a monthly basis, got these crazy office overheads, I've got personal overheads. If you're ever put in a position where you think, oh shit, I need some help, and then you start lashing out on all these people around, I helped you, that's the wrong thing, because you put yourself in that position because you overextended yourself by not having the ability to say no when no is required and try to offer help in different ways and different avenues. And that's not just money. I'm talking about energy, emotion, etc. All of these are currencies to me in this scenario, right? So helping yourself first and building real strength for yourself. And a lot of the times just having to say to people, look, not right now. Like, I need to focus on this right now, this mission, because if I don't complete this mission, then everything falls apart, right? That takes a certain degree of conditioning to do and to maintain.
Yeah,
it's such an 100%.
Because like, even tying that into earlier conversation that we were having about, you know, like oneness and, you know, wanting to be a better person and helping the world, that's also, it makes it difficult to say no, because when you're so compassionate and so empathetic, you know,
empathy is a big one. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you see someone who, you know, you can help right now, and you think, well, why not? And again, what you just said is because you need to help yourself first sometimes in order to be able to consistently help this person or even help more.
Yeah, to help permanently.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Real
as opposed to just a one-off thing. Right. So
because I give you a perfect example. I despise New York. And this shocks many people as to like why everyone you say, oh, like, I went to New York. Oh my God, it's amazing, right? Like, nah, not feeling it, right? And the reason being, it's not that I don't appreciate certain architecture and stuff, but how can that be considered the land of the free, the land of opportunity, the American dream, where I can't walk more than 10 seconds and see a homeless person, right? And it's, for me, being a very empathetic person, that I internalize that pain, right? But the problem is that then screws me up even further is if I take $10 out of my pocket and I give it to that person, 9 people just saw me do that, right? And it's beyond help. Yeah. So there needs to be something more than just putting money towards a scenario. This is about infrastructure. Yeah. This is about being able to permanently fit. This is from education to financial infrastructure and the ability to allow these people to get integrated again.
Yeah.
Right.
And what you're saying in short really is one of my life goals is to help communities empower themselves. And essentially that's what you're saying. You give that one person a $10 note, you've really just done it to make yourself feel better because you can't take the pain of seeing them like that. What you haven't done is help the situation. So what the best way to help actually is to put yourself in a position where you're powerful enough, influential enough, and actually have enough capital or can generate enough capital to benefit those people in a way where they then become empowered to be able to generate their own $10.
I'm going to reveal something on this podcast for the first time ever.
Wow.
Right?
Guys, I made this happen.
The real reason why I'm doing all of this. Genuinely, if this was a question of money, I've ticked that box. I can sell up shop, and I'm cool. Me and my family, we're cool. The generation that follow, we're good, right? What this really is, okay, and it's baked into the Bitstocks logo. No one's picked up on this, right? The whole plan, master plan of Bitstocks, has been in that logo.
I don't have a trim.
Yeah, I'm still gonna do this. It's been in that logo for 3 years. Okay.
Gravity.
I want to build a platform. This is what Bitstocks is. Because there's certain conditions that I must debunk as a modern human, especially one of our demographic, okay, that one, education doesn't need to be through the conventional mechanism. All right. I didn't go to university. I dropped out of college twice. In fact, the reason why I dropped out of college the second time was because I had two different business studies teachers. One was a woman called Sharon. She was stunning, right? I don't mean in looks.
I'd leave college for her.
Don't mean in look sense. But as from a teacher's standpoint and her state of mind, she blew me away. She had all of these great ideas as what she wanted to do as an entrepreneur outside of teaching. So I gravitated towards her words, right? My other lecturer was a guy called Martin, typical textbook pusher, never run a business in his life and was telling me about business. The reason I had a problem with this is as a 17-year-old individual going to these classes, I was running my business and had been already for 12 months. I set my first business at 16. By the time I was 18 in that college class, I was making 7-8 grand a month, stable, consistent, every month. Which means 3 times more than the teacher that was telling me about business. I had no idea about business. I was like, this is broken. Right? I'm already debunking what it is that you're saying. Yes, I'm a golfer and I would make my mistakes. And I did go on and I did make my mistakes, right? But you don't need to go down the educational route. Also, the educational route is not in my view, the most efficient pursuit of knowledge, right? Passion should lead your knowledge compass, right? And attacking any subject matter with true passion, you will outdo anyone who's doing it just through an indoctrinated process. So the issue with society, however, is that I need to stand as a beacon of success. I need to be the multimillionaire. I need to have the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, the Rolls Royce, and all these other things. Not for me. I'm not doing it even for these reasons. Like, this is because these are my passions. But from other people's perspective, this is where my voice and my words have power.
Yeah.
Because I am a man of means. Whatever they conjure that to be in their head, global collective state is someone who is financially successful is worth hearing from, which is bollocks, right? But this is the game that we're in. This is capitalism, right? This is the game we're in. So, all right, cool. I'll play that game. Also, people who are spiritually inclined are meant to be running around airy-fairy, tree-hugging hippies, okay? I am fundamentally not that, right? I attack business the same way I attack anything else, to win, period. Not by illicit means, but to win through just being the smartest and the most dedicated at what it is that I'm doing. So debunking what a spiritual person is also another one of my prime directives with this. Ultimately, to stand on stage as a billionaire and say, this is how the world works. Aliens are freaking real. There are extraterrestrials. This is how it ties into, how it's seeded into all of our religions. This is the science to it. This is why Einstein was wrong. This is what quantum physics is. This is how it applies to the whole human condition as to what it is on this planet. This is what's going on in the darker echelons of government. This is what the Donald Trump movement really is actually all about. This is what the QAnon movement is actually all about. And then when this consciousness pole shift happens, which is happening really soon, which is why I'm putting information out there, because these will be retrospectively looked back on and the nuggets will be collated and people will be like, okay, I now see and understand what you have truly been building. The bank that we are building here at Bitstocks, the world doesn't even realize how much it is that they need it, right? When this pole shift happens, and this is happening soon, we're talking not years, we're talking months to light years, right? So like 12, like maybe 8 to 12 month time frame. A lot of what it is that I'm saying is going to really break out in the open. It already is like breaking out in the open right now. So when we have this complete exposure of knowledge, things that I've been exposing myself to now for 15 years, when the masses have more understanding about what's truly gone on this planet, they then have a decision, right? Are you going to want to go with the traditional economic system that you know has been essentially weaponized against you? Are you going to be looking at the conventional stores of wealth? Are you even going to be looking at your house the same way because your house is completely designed on nascent technology? Tesla invented free energy over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? So how's that going to change the structures that we live in? If the knowledge that comes in, that's people start understanding that our concrete jungles that we surround ourselves in and all the silicon that we surround ourselves in actually shields us as human beings from the benefits of the earthing effect, which is negatively charged hydrogen ions. The earth emits 0.04 joules. Human beings react positively from this earthing effect. And it counterbalances the barragement of positively charged hydrogen ions from the sun that then leads to cell degradation and all these other things. And you've got food, pharmaceuticals, all these other things that extrapolate this, right? This stuff is going to start being very well known, and the ways of healing these things and the fact that we never need to be sick, these things are going to start being very publicly known. So what I want my whole being to be is just spreading this light, providing people the economic means to truly explore these subject matters without guilt. Because if you conquer this finance stuff, this is where a lot of spiritual people get it wrong, right? They get way too over here, block out the rest of the world, and then just spend the rest of their time delving into conspiracy theories and eating baked beans out of a tin, right? You have to conquer this side. You have to conquer the business world, because as much as you might not like it, and I quite enjoy the business world, but as much as you might not like it, you need a holistic view, and you need to be a spiritual warrior, right?
I like that.
You combine that together, that is where you start treating law of attraction as easily as this table supporting this microphone, because it is that tangible. And I have been utilizing it tangibly, subconsciously, since my adolescence, really, really early years, but to the point of understanding the quantum mechanics behind the term that we throw around as being law of attraction, I'll say 3 years. That's when I really started understanding symbolism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And it's good that you made that point about quantum mechanics and quantum physics being really the science aspect of what we call law of attraction. And similar to you, I like to delve into the real core of things. And because of that, I've more and more gotten into quantum physics recently, and now starting to look at quantum mechanics.
You mentioned on your blog post yesterday.
Yeah,
right?
Do you know, I don't even remember mentioning it.
You just slotted it in there. He's like, yeah, spiritual, quantum physics as well. I was like, yeah, we gonna dance on that.
Let's two-step. It's just something I've been really into as well recently. And one of the documentaries I watched recently, I don't know if you've watched it actually, I should have mentioned it to you. I might have. What the Bleep Do We Know? It's a brilliant documentary. It's on YouTube, so it's free. There's an extended version which has a storyline running concurrent to it. And as I say that, I remember I mentioned it to you at the boxing, at a couple box. So basically there's a storyline, almost like a drama, running concurrently with these scientific experts and animations around quantum physics and mechanics and understanding it. And it's about 3 hours long. There's a shorter version, but it's one of the best things I've watched recently, seriously. Like, they break it down to a point where you've got to not want to understand it to understand what they're explaining to you. So it's so brilliant, and it's so engaging, especially with the storyline that runs alongside of it without spoiling it. It's a good storyline because you start it and then you're like, actually, I kind of want to see how the story ends. But the story, each part of the story is relevant to the part of quantum physics they're explaining.
One thing I want to sum up on this subject matter, and then we'll start finishing up, and I want to ask you certain questions about boxing, who inspires you right now, and we can speak about more current boxing issues. You can tell us what you've got going on at the end of the month with your fight, where people can get access to that information. But a visual that I want to leave people on in terms of this dense subject matter is with law of attraction and really understanding who we are and the power of every single person in the universe. You ever hear like the butterfly effect, right? So for those that don't know, just a quick rundown, the butterfly effect will be like, all right, say a butterfly flies into this room right now. Okay, you and I have a decision to make. We have an action and an inaction. Everyone assumes just action is all that matters, but your inaction is an action in itself. So our action could be butterfly drops on this table and bam, slap the butterfly, kill the butterfly.
What kind of person would do that?
Horrible person, right? And by doing that, you are denying that butterfly with a different engagement. Let's just say we then let it live. That butterfly then flies out of this window, flies into some lady's car. She just so happens to have a phobia of butterflies, freaks the hell out, swerves, bucks up on the pavement, hits a child. Child turns out to be the son of one of the top ambassadors. Now this has become a political situation because you and I, being the tree huggers that we are,
chose not to kill the butterfly.
Chose not to kill the butterfly, right? How much power do we put into a butterfly? But yeah, when applying that logic to a human being and to ourselves, we don't think we're as powerful or could be as powerful as a freaking butterfly. And this is the whole thing about the illusion of chaos. It is merely an illusion because in that scenario of the butterfly effect, it was not chaos. You and I made a conscious decision that then transpired some certain events. Okay, there was order in that chaos.
Yeah, there always is.
Understanding our own power, that we are far more consciously tooled up than a butterfly. We have the ability to establish order through the illusion of chaos. And that is really what I want people to, any dense subject matter which we've spoken about today, anchor that thought process, that image in your mind. That really is, to me, really, truly a powerful way of identifying just how powerful human beings really, truly are. And this is why the graveyard is the wealthiest place on the planet. That's where doctors never became doctors, boxers never became boxers, CEOs never became CEOs, right? Because they're too scared, because they got caught up in the duality between fear and courage, where they imprisoned courage in the body of fear and they didn't take these actions. And all these dreams and all these great inventions and these things that would have changed the world went to die, right? Identifying their power is it's the greatest thing you could do to yourself and by product of that to your fellow man. So,
sorry, I know we're coming to the end of it, but just to touch on that, on another note though, so drawing from what we discussed earlier, everything that ever was, is, and would be already is. And because we are all one and share the same consciousness, even when someone takes an idea with them to the grave, what they've really done is, I don't want to use the word failed, but what they've done is they have gone to the grave without being a vessel to manifesting that thing that came into their consciousness. However, it still stays out there and somebody else will pick it up and use it. But to support again what you just discussed.
We have practical examples of that. So a patent could be filed by a scientist on one side of the planet, and then you will have essentially another scientist on the other side of the planet, never spoken to another, right? Will file pretty much an identical patent.
Yeah.
Right?
Happens all the time.
There's this transference of information through this cosmic web of us all ultimately being what you say.
One consciousness.
One consciousness. Yeah.
Yes, but and I guess some people may say, well, if someone else is going to do it anyway, then why does it matter if I did it or not? Because why not be the vessel? Why not be the person who brings this benefit to the world? Be
the butterfly that creates the conditions that you wanted it to create. Absolutely. So push dense subject to the side now. Go back on something light. Who inspires you right now? Like boxing wise, I think boxing's just seen a massive, massive uptick. Predominantly, I'll attribute to AJ, Anthony Joshua.
In the UK,
he just shook the hell out. He really got boxing super exciting again. Like, just what's from the inside? Like, what's the vibe? Like, who do you look up to and respect and solicit advice from in the boxing scene right now? And in terms of up and coming people, who do you reckon's are good names or names that people should keep an eye out for?
So for me, when I first decided to turn a professional boxer, one of the things I was looking for was a mentor. It would still be quite nice to have one, actually, when I think about it. But I don't have one. I was in talks with Paulie Malignaggi for a bit, and then that sort of just faded away. But I'm at a point with boxing now where I've got such strong tunnel vision that I'm actually not looking at anybody else or anything else.
Inner knowledge.
Yeah. I'm actually paying less attention to the wider terrain of boxing, so to speak, outside of what directly influences me right now. And I think a big part of that is understanding that I'm on a comeback trail from October. And I'm currently not where I forecasted to be. However, I know that I can still get back on track. But to get back on track, I may just need to do something a lot more... what's the word I'm looking for? When you do something, I've just got mind block. But basically, I've
honed in, focused, intent.
Something a lot more drastic than what I would have done otherwise. It's not the word I was looking for, but it still does it. And because of that, I've just been so focused. I'm not really looking at people in that way. But previous to that, I mean, I was looking at the likes of Floyd Mayweather. And a lot of people think, oh yeah, because he's got the flash cars and the nice houses and stuff. I do want all that.
I'm gonna say something controversial with Floyd.
Yeah,
I personally think, put all the like persona stuff to the side, just like craft. I think Nicky's is the best ever.
Yeah,
I mean, in terms of like the art of not getting hit and just chest.
Exactly.
Right. The guy's freaking insane.
He was. And this is the thing. So yeah, he does flaunt the cash and he has the nice things. I do enjoy luxury stuff. Who doesn't like
it? Doesn't mean I actually necessarily enjoy these fights though, even with that statement.
No, but I did. This is the thing, because I love the sweet science, and it was such a pleasure to watch him and watch him demonstrate the sweet science, and just watching all of how many hours of practice and visual observations did he have to put in order to be able to be so relaxed.
The most stunning thing for me when watching him is his accuracy.
All of it. And a lot of it comes from his concentration. So one of my coaches sent me a video today of a clip of him doing something. Part of it was something that we're working on. And one of the things I picked up on, I didn't actually comment on it, was he was in an exchange with Canelo Alvarez, who I think is one of the best guys boxing today. And even though they were like this, their faces were about this far apart, Floyd's eyes did not blink. He was so relaxed that they were this close, and he had his eyes, boom, boom, reacting and looking. And I thought, to be able to reach that level of calmness, you must have put in the most amount of practice, and you deserve to be able to achieve all the things that you have achieved. And it speaks for itself, because again, he's loaded up his karma and he's just benefited the rewards. So anyway, going into boxing, obviously I was looking up to him for both reasons. He did well financially, but also in terms of dedicating himself to his craft and being where he was. Everyone in boxing at the time, who ever trained with him or was ever around him, always came out and said, look, the guy's an animal. I've never seen anyone who trains like him. And there were world champions saying this. Then obviously Anthony Joshua winning the Olympics 2012 and the big hype in the UK about him and what he's gone on to do. And I give thanks to him for the fact that, at least within the UK, what he's done is he's shifted the perception of boxing in some way, where it's no longer just this grubby sport of a guy from a council estate who had his only way out through this sport, where this other gangster smoking a cigar was managing his career. And now it's like, oh, actually, you can speak quite well and you can look the part and you can be respectful and still be a good boxer.
Joe, who really honed that in? And I've always been an AJ fan, but there was a period where I was like, nah, do you know what? Like this whole, who's he going to fight next? Fury, Wilder. It's more like the Wilder thing and scenario. And I started doing a lot of research into Wilder, and I realized, and again, this is completely my comment, I don't think that guy wants to fight anyone. I don't rate him, man. I don't rate Wilder. I think Wilder is a very firm duck in ice. Like, genuinely, right? That's my opinion. You could disagree with that. You can have your comments on it.
I don't know him personally. I don't know his team personally.
For me, just perspective-wise, I was like, But then there was a certain period of that where I thought, okay, maybe it's AJ being too political, right? But I'm a businessman. So I look at it from the business perspective, and I like what AJ does and how he carries himself and moves that he makes from a business perspective. But I'll tell you something that really solidified for me why I now firmly will say I'm an AJ fan is something my dad said. Because going back, I said my dad, like 6'5", big, huge black guy. The guy's always been a freaking hothead as well, right? And I was like, I really like Dylan White. I'm a massive fan of Dylan White. I like the rawness of White, right? Like, White just wants to fight, right? And he carries himself that way pretty much all the time. There's just this rawness. And I like that and identify with that because you just know what you're getting all the time, right? I really, really like that. And I was like, I think AJ just kind of just needs to be more aggressive. I was saying to my dad, I just feel that it just needs to, like, sometimes drop this, like, kind of trim and proper
gentleman image,
and just I can see it's under, like, that stuff. I was like, he just needs to let that come through a bit. And I feel like it came through when him and White had that exchange after White's fight.
Yeah.
And then White walked off.
Yeah.
And then you see AJ having that interview. You know,
his
persona was, okay, stay calm. But inside, you know, that fire was just like,
he was burning. Yeah.
It was burning him, right? And my argument was to my dad, I really want to see more of that, right? I want to see that come through more. And my dad was like, no, that's exactly what you don't want to see, because he's like, you haven't had the perspective of being a big, huge black guy who's always expected to act that way.
Yeah.
He's always expected to respond that way. My dad's dealt with that his whole life.
Yeah.
Difference is my dad's probably very warranted where people have that. He really played into that. He made it easy, right? Yeah. In many ways. But he was like, with wisdom and age, he was like, that's how he conducts himself, how he carries himself. In my dad's opinion, is one of the best things that he has to say. Like, he really respects that and likes that about AJ's persona. I sat down, I actually thought about that. I was like, you know what? That's a very, very good point.
No, it is a good point. Really, AJ's actually quite a wise guy. So for someone who's quite young still, when you speak to him, you actually feel the wisdom come through, and it's just like, yo, like, where did you grow up? So yeah, chances are he does think in those ways. In regards to him and Wilder thing, I don't know. By the way, I think Wilder's a bit weird like us. If you listen to some of the things he says, if you read between the lines, you're like, yo, this guy's a bit woke. But the way he strings things together, it's very religious centric with how he strings things together. I haven't really heard him say things that kind of go beyond. No, he speaks on purpose and energy. And
that
sort of stuff, higher self. But anyway, so to answer the question, basically, in short, in recent times, going into boxing, Floyd Mayweather I always looked up to. And then ever since I started boxing, obviously Canelo's at the top, at the pinnacle of the game. And being a competitive person, naturally, that's what I aspire to be. And my practical mind says, you know, that's madness. These guys started so young, and, you know, look at all the things they've had to overcome to get to where they are. But then my deeper inner self says, why not? You know, like, everything's impossible until it's done. But also, I believe in, you dream and believe like a child, and that allows you to make things happen because a child has no doubt. And the elimination of doubt allows things to happen, or allows room for things to happen. But in short, in today's day, I look up to a lot of people. So I answered a similar question in that vlog. Someone asked me, who did you look up to? And I said, I find inspiration from everywhere. You, for example, I mentioned your name, I'm pretty sure I did. And like I said, people around me mostly people who I'm actually in contact with, or I feel like I can relate to, I find more inspiration from. So there aren't any specific names. Like I said, I'm focusing on myself right now and what I'm doing. But the landscape of boxing right now is very good, and I'm excited to be in it with an opportunity to.
What do you reckon is the most interesting fight right now? It's in the heavyweight division, so between the big four, I guess, right now.
Yeah.
Arguably, I guess you could throw a fifth person in there. What do you reckon is the most interesting and more likely matchups? How do you see it breaking down to the eventual huge battles between, I guess, what people ultimately want to see?
I think. Whoa.
What's going on right now? You got Fury's done his deal with this.
With ESPN.
ESPN 80 million deal. White just continuously seems to be in no man's land. And as frustrated as I am for White, I can understand why he's in no man's land. In my opinion, he's probably the most dangerous guy for any one of these guys to fight. Of course. Right?
But he's not a champion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So when does he get... And he's a mandatory in 2 different governing bodies, so he should really
but wasn't he a mandatory with the whole Brazil thing and then that
I don't know what's going on with WBC. I don't know, and I don't want to comment because I might need him someday.
Yeah.
But he's also the #1 challenger in the WBA, and they've been threatening to call a mandatory for AJ, so hopefully at some point they do it. We all want to see these fights. So I think in the heavyweights, there are some great, fantastic fights there to be made that people would want to watch. Another fight that a lot of people have been asking about.
I ain't letting you get away from that subject just yet. Who reigns supreme?
My genuine opinion is that between AJ, Wilder, and Fury, every single one of them has the potential to beat any of the other. And so it's a matter of whose night it is. And that's my genuine opinion. But that's what makes it captivating.
Yeah, agree. I conform to that. And I think what's really exciting and interesting, and I think this is where all of these guys, they all have zeros, right? Yeah. I don't think they need to be caught up in that. What I see, if they're all on it, this belt, just keep on exchanging hands between basically those 3. That would be the most amazing era in boxing ever, in my opinion, right? If that belt, if just going back and forth, and these guys are just on it and bake the shit in the contract as well, right? And it's just going back and forth, back and forth, back. I see that. You can see that with, I'll say the weakest of the bunch, in my opinion, I'll stand firm in this, is Wilder, but he just has that kind of haymaker, wild style.
I just gotta have my moment for 2 seconds. You gotta be good for 12 rounds. I gotta be good for 12 seconds.
It's a good point.
For 2 seconds, yeah, he's right. He just needs 2 seconds.
It is a good
point.
In
12 rounds, it's not a lot of time. But yeah, like you were saying, so there are a lot of exciting fights, obviously in the heavyweight division, coming down. One that's quite close to home because a friend of mine, and we're promoting by the same promoter. There's talks of Anthony Yard with Kovalev.
He's just mowing down people at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I would like for that fight to happen as well, because a lot of people ask me, and I've never said this to him, so I guess it's out there now. A lot of people say to me, how good is Yard? And I always, like, from an objective view, I always say, we're yet to find out. And it's true, because we need to have him box someone who we understand the level of, to then say, okay,
the guy that we went and watched the other week,
Boatsi.
Yeah, is that Yard's?
Is Yard's weight? I don't think
he doesn't look it though. It's insane because
Yard's friggin' huge for his weight.
He's huge, man.
But Boatsi's also a really good boxer. He's
quality.
Yeah, very quality. As you saw yourself, quality. Like, whistling with every punch and shit. But yeah, so that's another fight that people want to see. But I guess more on a global scale. There's Canelo Jacobs coming up. That's a good fight. And the other good fights to be made, welterweight division, people talking about who's the king of the welterweights. Errol Spence seems to be getting a lot of people's, backing at the moment after his performance against Mikey Garcia. But, people like Thurman and, Paul are saying, well, Danny Garcia came 2 weight divisions up.
Thurman's fights are insane.
Yeah, exactly.
He just continues throwing and just take licks.
Getting people out, so these guys are like, well, you've got to come see me. And then Terence Crawford, Manny Pacquiao seems to have a second lease of life.
Yeah, but he's going off of Mayweather, again.
Yeah, but who knows if
anything, if Mayweather's going to step back in, that's probably the only one, in my opinion, that makes sense. Like, they're both old.
I just hope Mayweather doesn't come back.
Yeah, I think he just leave it be.
Do you know the guy's making a lot of money off doing exhibitions? He said he's making 80 million in 1 year from doing exhibition fights. That'll be more
in Japan.
No, not just that. Like, exhibitions in different places.
Oh, okay.
That's more money than the heavyweights are making. So anyway. Boxing's in a good place, and the fact that we're talking about all this money being generated, like I said, excites me, because it means that I have an opportunity to draw closer to my own sovereignty. And obviously I would manage, save, invest my money wisely and under you guys' advice as well.
We got you, man. We got you.
Yeah. And but also something you were touching on earlier, you didn't actually complete when you're talking about being a billionaire and speaking. It's about
becoming.
Yeah. Being, it's already done. What will be already is. But yeah, and it's more about the status and the power and what that power allows you to do. And part of why I box is because of the power I would like to attain through people being familiar with who I am, the status and the stature that I establish in the process to then allow me to better do work after. So, there's so many people campaigning for all different things around the world, and I, and everybody else in this room has probably never heard of these things, or we haven't actually. There are thousands of people campaigning for things, but when you become an influential person who commands attention and is respected, you can campaign about things and give them real meaning in terms of numbers of people willing to listen and take action. And that's something else that motivates me. So yeah, I'm happy to have this platform to work on these things. And my next fight, April 27th, is another step in the journey. I'm prepared. I've got one more week of hard training after this week, and then we'll taper down to it. But I'm looking forward to a great performance. My boxing game is evolving massively. I'm personally excited to find out just how much better I've become since just my last fight. And and then to find out what we've got to go back and work on. And that's a very good place to be in. And I guess that in itself is a description of passion. So, I'm committed, I'm passionate, I'm driven. My whys are bigger than myself. And because of that, it's easy to wake up in the morning. It's easy to leave here, go straight into the training session and give him my all, and then sleep early and go to the morning. But you get the point. Yeah. So that's where we're at.
So in order for people to get tickets, to keep up to date with you, what's your medium? Like, for instance, for me, I'm the firm Insta guy. Like Twitter is for me draining, like incredibly draining. I dibble with Twitter every now and again. If you want to speak to me, Insta, that's your medium, or YouTube, I guess. How can people get in contact with you consistently, where you'll be most responsive? If they want to buy tickets, like, is there one go-to place, or should they just keep up to date with like one of your social feeds?
So in regards to keeping up to date, we are very much alike in terms of where we are active on social media. So for me, again, Instagram strong, Twitter occasional. I've got my YouTube, young, similar to yours. So for your viewers, I guess you guys are already used to the media channels of getting hold of Mike, and it's the same for me. And my handle is Topboxer Sadiq. So, go in there and check. And in regards to tickets, easily accessible through my website, topboxersadiq.com. I have a link on the bio of my Instagram for that. Or just put topboxersadiq.com on internet and purchase your ticket. I'll accept PayPal and, Visa. And very soon, we're going to cost to accept you.
You better say it. You better say it.
Very soon you'll be able to buy the tickets with cryptocurrency. So yeah, just get on my website, topboxersadiq.com. It's got all the information, all social media platforms, Topboxer Sadiq. Come through, man. Come enjoy it. It's an exciting journey. And I do genuinely like to engage with people who actively come out their way to support me. So, like after my last fight, I was out handing out t-shirts, taking pictures, speaking with people. And this is something that I've done since the start of my career, and I plan to continue doing. So come join the journey, and you'll genuinely get to feel like you're part of it, because you are. And I look forward to seeing you guys.
Awesome. I think that's a great way of summing things up and ending a pretty awesome podcast. I think we ain't even watched this back yet. I know watching this back, this is going to be a great thing to sit back and watch, because Bitstocks and my podcast in particular, what I want this format to be is just to engage with interesting people, engage with people trying to go out there and affect positive change. It doesn't have to just be a conversation about Bitcoin. We barely even touched about Bitcoin. In fact, if you watch back most of my podcasts, it's more the philosophy around life, and then how Bitcoin aids that. And this is the thing that I really want to install and help people really understand. So, mate, nothing but love and respect. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast and helping people understand why we're even in this engagement. To us, we don't even look at this really, I guess, as a business thing. It's like you're doing something positive and you're at the peak of your game and you're continuing to achieve and raise that apex of that peak. I'm doing the exact same in my respective field. And I think especially our demographic, and I'm talking about the London youth environment right now, which is going through a lot of turbulent
the IC3
cycles.
and IC2 males.
Yeah. Literally, right?
Yeah.
It's just good for two random people just through a common acquaintance to then be supporting each other at this level so quickly and so positively and so genuinely. And this is what I wanted to come across today on the camera. That none of this is premeditated. This is just energy, frequency, vibration. So with that being said, nothing but, as always, peace, love, and light. See you guys next time. All the best. Nice. That was a bit of a beast one, eh? I think that was like 2 hours at least.